Yo, 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 another day. Maybe tonight when I sign to the rep, another dollar. But right now, some big chill energy. Look at that. Look at that creature. Look how adorable it is. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're the adorable creature. Yeah. Now, we're gonna say sorry, brother. Do, 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 do. I have two plans for this morning. One, Testing 1, 2. There we go. Back at it. We have to put some music on, otherwise it'll do that bullshit. Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at campgrounds in South Carolina, but it comes down to it, probably not go to South Carolina. Never know though. Never know though. South Carolina's on the radar. Now we're gonna go and watch a Lawrence Anton video about antinatalism in Israel. I'm just curious what Jewish people slash Israelites have to say about antinatalism. I mean, there is antinatalism in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, but you know, the house cat. Yeah, I know, right? Um, Just on my lap, what adorable little dude. Yeah, that looks pretty neat.
The time while not eating. make it easier for them because they don't eat and don't drink. But they don't really do what they are supposed to do, and that is kind of soul searching or introspection or reflecting over their lives. So when I was 17, it's 28 years ago, I'm 45 now. I thought to myself, it was 95, so no internet, no smartphones, no TV broadcasts, so it was a great opportunity to do an introspection. So I remember myself lying on bed and just thinking, and thinking about my relationship with God and with myself and with life and etc. And ironically, the first thing that went away, that disappeared from my life, thinking about God, I did a good job thinking about my relationship with Him, is to lose God. So I became an atheist that day, and in kind of a domino effect, many other things have. I started to question and to doubt all kinds of things in my life and in life
Yeah,
in
get on
general. It
that,
wasn't
G.
so personal. Um, and I guess that was the point, mainly because I thought that I
Yo,
realized that
I'm
life
just
is
live
purposeless
streaming.
and
Not too
goalless, and
much
there's
new
nothing
for
to
me, I
achieve in
guess.
life, and
Went
it's
on a date
meaningless
with
in
a
the
girl
sense of
named
cosmic
and
meaning, not
went
in the sense of
successful a couple days ago.
individual life are
Have a
meaningless, I would
second
say.
one planned movies
Um,
on
and
Friday.
I think
Other
that
than
is the point
that,
where it snaps. That
nothing much new.
I just thought to
Should
myself
probably
that
start
it's
getting
crazy
packed, and
that
I'm sorry
the
that
most
you are
crucial
gonna have a
decision in my
scary
life,
experience of
it
flying
wasn't me who made
alone,
it.
but I
And
trust
not
that
only
you
that I
are
didn't
a
choose
strong,
to be
independent girl
created to
boss. You
exist,
got
I
this.
didn't choose any of the circumstances, the conditions of my creation that ended up shaping who I am, the person I am. And I think it's kind of crazy. The only reason that people get it as plain and self-evident, it's because it is self-evident and
Thanks,
it's the only
Dave.
way to create people, but it's still very wrong and something that at least
To be fair,
drives and
Quinita
requires
is
serious thinking.
technically
That we
transgender,
didn't choose
so it's a
to
transgender
exist
woman
or anything
who
about
originally
our
wanted
creation
to be a
and the
man
circumstances of our creation.
and transitioned to a woman.
So I
But
was against the
still be a
production
woman. But
pretty much back then, but
in a
I
way,
encountered the word.
I've transcended women
Realized that there is a term
and man.
to the moral opposition to procreation, and it's antinatalism. Obviously, about 10 years ago, watching Imandam's videos on YouTube, and then I realized
That boy
it's
Mendel.
actually a term, and then I was introduced to Better Never to Have Been, David Berntal's book, and I read it, and that's practically it. I became officially an antinatalist, and not only against morally opposing procreation.
Yeah. Sorry, go.
Wait, they do or
Um,
don't?
no, I think that sums
Does it make sense
this
itself?
kind of my snapping moment
Well, I know
continuing
Quinita's
for a day, but
attracted to me. Let's just say
it
that.
kind of relates
So
to your moment on a different area of activism and morality.
it's not to be emotionally attracted.
Yeah. No. Thank you for sharing that story as well. So getting on to Israel. So
Israel.
Haran already kind of mentioned this, but like, what do you both think the culture is like in Israel when it comes to discussing controversial ideas like antinatalism? Is there a relatively open sort of forum in the culture for, people are quite open to discussing controversial ideas like this? Or is the culture
Well, they
more
should
sort of
probably care about looks,
conservative and
because
it
they're going to
doesn't
be fucking
really
us.
allow
It's
much
kind of
discussion
like
of
a
topics like that?
major
Either of you
aspect
can
of a
go first.
relationship is the sexual dynamic. So if
Go
they
ahead,
don't want to
Nimrod.
fuck
Okay.
the man or woman that they're
Well,
dating,
like everything in Israel,
problematic in my
everything
mind.
is complex. It's very complex, and there are all
Sorry
kinds
for
of
anyone that's tuning in.
always
There's like two
different.
conversations going on. One with I answered Snapchat about my personal life, and so now Dave's talking about personal life, and then there's the whole thing with Anton going on here. So I'm just responding about some personal life stuff. I should probably have paused it. You know what? We can go back a wee bit to the beginning of Israel culture.
Strata of
So
Yeah. Let's just go and cover the personal stuff. Guys only care about looks. Well, guys care about looks 90%, girls about 40%. That's probably if you IRL, I'd say, yeah, guys care more about looks than women, probably around the 90 percentile thing where it's like 90% of what you take into account is looks first up front. But online, there can be exceptions because if you don't know what the person looks like, you can fall in love with their personality before finding out what they look like. So that's a exception of the rule for men when it comes to looks. Other than that, yeah, IRL, you are going to have this man. Look at guys, he doesn't know what antisocial means. Okay, so is antisocial and then there's asocial. You are talking about asociality. Asocial means you do not want to socialize. You are asocial. Antisocial means you are okay. So there's three things I should establish pro-sociality first. Being pro-social means you are pro-society. You are pro helping people, wanting humankind to flourish. You want positive, joyous things for the world. You are pro society, aka pro social. If you're asocial, you are neutral for society. You don't really care for society. You want to keep to yourself. You don't really want to socialize. If you're antisocial, you are anti-society. You're anti-culture. You are a kind of a destructive force. You're disruptive. You're psychopathic. You break the laws. You have lack of empathy, stuff like that. So it's has nothing to do with being social and talking to people. It has everything to do with your level of empathy and disruption and stuff of that nature. So another divergence from the topic, but nonetheless. But yes, I did change my name from anti-social leftist. He's just on my name on Twitch is still anti-social leftist. So he I should probably change it on there to ApostleO'Ultron also, but whatever, I'll do that some other time. But yeah, Dave, I just covered that. There's pro-social, being pro-society, is asocial, just being socially neutral slash not wanting to socialize, and then there's antisocial, which is being counterculture or disruptive, which is what I am. Neighbor guy. Okay, let's play this.
Getting on to Israel. So
Getting on to Israel.
Haran already kind of mentioned this, but like, what do you both think the culture is like in Israel when it comes to discussing controversial ideas like antinatalism? Is there a relatively open sort of forum in the culture for, you know, people are quite open to discussing controversial ideas like this, or is the culture more sort of conservative and it doesn't really allow much discussion of topics like
Pretty
that?
sure Israel's
Either of you can go first.
Conservative.
Go ahead, Nimrod.
Okay. Well, like everything in Israel, everything is complex. It's a very complex, and there are all kinds of different strata of society. As you probably know, for the passing year, more accurately, the passing 9 months, the Israeli society is in kind of a crisis, a major crisis, kind of existential crisis. And a lot of issues are being, it crosses, it's more than a political dispute. It's a social dispute, it has a very strong religious angle, So in a way, what let me say that I wasn't talking about how I started to my antinatalism activism. Maybe we'll get into it later, but I'll jump into it right now. That I delayed my decision to go out to the streets, so to speak, to start antinatalism grassroots activism because that the Israeli society attention, people's attention is directed now to the judicial reform and to the demonstration against judicial reform. And I wasn't sure how this message will be accepted during this time. So that was one of the reasons why I delayed. I decided to delay my activism, kind of the forming the Israeli anti-natalism movement. But to my surprise, I'm doing it for 5 months. And from today it's 5 months since I started, and people are way more open than I expected. And I think there is kind of relation. It is connected to the fact that for 33 weeks in a row, people are going to demonstrations, and many people are going more than once a week to the big demonstration in Tel Aviv and all kinds of places. So the liberal parts, but there are many downsides, obviously, to this judicial reform. That goes without saying, but the silver lining that I'm seeing, which is amazing to me, is that the more liberal parts of Israel society woke
I
up.
said it was not last
They
one was
are
in
awake
math.
now, and they are mad, and they are alert, and that is also, besides the downsides, the obvious downsides, that is an opportunity to talk to them about all kinds of things, to kind of rearrange
Well,
their
Quinito
values
versus transgender,
in
so
other surfaces as well. I'm also doing animal rights activism
first his name's
during these
Quinita,
protests. Maybe
transgender,
we'll
so
touch it
was
later.
guy, now
And
girl.
people
So,
are rather accepting
in a way,
and
both,
open
but I
to different messages during and among
crazy
the
shit.
demonstrations that are directed into supposedly a different place. I'm trying to connect the things. I'm not doing anti-natalism advocacy in Israel, not at all. But the times that the more liberal parts of Israel are awake now is an opportunity chance. It's an opportunity moment to talk to them about other things as well. Obviously, they are my target audience, and the more conservative side and the more the religious people are a much tougher challenge. But surprisingly, it's the conversations are much better and much deeper and more significant than I thought. Again, maybe I will touch it. I'll touch it later. Maybe you want to ask Haran a little bit more about the culture in Israel. Maybe I will talk a little bit more about
I have a
the responses
strong
and how the conversation looks
feeling
like.
that a lot of the conversations he has are with moral anti-realists. People are like, well, because there is no God, there is no morality, you can just exploit everybody. But what's the difference between that and a normal Jewish person who thinks that they're basically religiously chosen by God and therefore allowed to exploit anybody everywhere? So honestly, not much of a difference. Either way, you're kind of fucked. It's, I'm guessing, a conversation of Israelite culture, because most of them imagine are anti-realists. But maybe there aren't. Maybe some of them are actual objective morality stuff. Who knows? I will find out.
Yeah, Haran, do you have anything to add about the culture in general, and about any experiences that you've had that has shaped your understanding of how the culture is, how open it is to antinatalism?
There's a big difference between what I know about the general public and what I experience in my small bubble.
Right. Yeah.
My small bubble is relatively liberal, and I don't feel I'm not discouraged from voicing my opinion. At least to the, let's say, students I study with at university, or my parents or my friends. I talk with them freely about what I think. They know I am against procreation, and I tell them the reasons why. Some of them understand it, some of them do not. But even those who do understand, most of them do intend to have children because just because. So and while I do know some people who do not have children and don't intend to, it's usually not because they wish to end suffering in the world and they don't have an antinatalist view. They just don't want it for themselves. But those are few and far between. The general public in Israel is very conservative when it comes to having children. It's like an obligation to have at least 3 children, and those are the liberal families. The more conservative families, the more religious families have 4, 5, 6, even sometimes even more, and that's considered normal, even though Israel is, I think, by most standards, considered a developed state. But when it comes to our reproduction rate, we are very much in the past. And that's a big problem in Israel. And it's hard work to convince people otherwise. So as I said in the beginning, talking directly about antinatalism is out of the question. But I do take part in advocacy for family planning, for smaller families, for the sake of everyone's quality of life. And that's a first step. That's a significant first step. And that's something I feel I can contribute to, and it's something that I do on a daily basis. It's part of my life.
So, sorry, go on,
going to heaven.
No, I just say that it has on the surface. My activism has nothing to do with antinatalism.
So, I was actually going to ask about this later on, but since you've brought it up, I'll ask it now. So, I'm sure. I think you kind of implied this already, Haran, but there's a narrative that is starting to rise in developed countries that birth rates are going below replacement rate, and this is going to be, a big issue. It's going to be a key issue for governments and elections in the future as we have aging population, stuff like this. But as you said, Israel is considered a developed nation, but it's bucking the trend in that it still has a birth rate above the replacement rate. And there are still quite a lot of people who have big families. So it seems to be much more pro-natalist than other countries that have had a reduction in birth rate as they've become wealthier. Why do you two think that is? Why do you think Israel specifically is so pro-natalist? There's another guy I know who's Israeli and anti-natalist, but he didn't want to come on the interview because he didn't want to be public. But he was saying that he believes it has something to do with the fact that it's still quite a strong religious country. And also he says that he thinks there's a connection with the historical legacy of the Holocaust, in that, if we do not have kids, then Hitler has won, sort of thing. But also, demographic wars. Obviously, Israel is quite well known around the world for being in a situation of conflict. And so maybe there's this narrative of like, we need to have kids to maintain the nation, stuff like this. So what are your guys' opinion on this? Do you think that those are valid reason, that those are like correct assessments for why Israel is so pro-natalist, or do you think there's other reasons?
I think this is a very good assessment of what people think is causing the birth rate. It's what people use as, let's say, an excuse.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's a political issue. long ago in the history of Israel, which does not exist for that long, but the government in the 50s decided to be pro-natalist for the many reasons you said, for religious reasons, for a demographic war, let's say, against the Arabs, and to replenish those who died in the Holocaust, etc. The problem is, nowadays those things are completely irrelevant. All the Jews that have died in the Holocaust have been replaced and then some. There is no demographic war because the Arabs are behaving like normal people, because they get richer and they have a declining birth rate like everywhere else in the world. So that is a non-issue. And the religious argument is also not true, because there were religious people, very religious people, ultra-Orthodox, back in the day, before there was pro-natalist public policy, and they had 2 or 3 children. But because of the public policy that was enacted since the 50s and has not changed, religious people have 5 or 6 children and even upwards. And even non-religious have 3 children. And that has a lot to do with pro-natalist policy by the government, which has not changed for many years. It is, they advocate for it in every way possible. And the most effective way is through economic benefits or economic incentives. There are still many economic incentives that the government provides to have large families. And this is going to cause us a lot of trouble in the future. Yeah, I'm talking regardless of my anti-natalist beliefs. Israel is heading for a demographic explosion, and our economy will not survive it. Israel may, in the future, in 20 years, when we have 20 million people living in this small place, we might be considered a developing nation rather than a developed one, as we are now.
And Nimrod, what are your thoughts on the sort of pro-natalist state of Israel?
Well, first of all, I agree that Israel is a pro-natalist country. However, I'm a little bit surprised. I was expecting many counter arguments to my anti-natalistic arguments. By the way, I'm not talking about population explosion or reasons to reduce the population because of climate change or environmental issues or child-free or anything like that. I'm talking about anti-natalism. I'm using anti-natalist arguments with people such as that procreation is selfish, that the consent argument, risk, gamble, harming others, obviously, which is my main motive, and arguments such as these. And I'm surprised that I'm not hearing much more. I was expecting the demographic argument, the security, the famous security argument that you mentioned. And I don't hear it that much. And I think it relates to the fact that I'm talking to them about antinatalism and not about population reduction. I'm talking to them in universal notions and moral arguments, and they are coming through. They are trying to counter my arguments more or less in the same rule. So we are having quite quickly. We are having kind of a philosophical debate on the street about antinatalism. And I was expecting something else. I was expecting to hear a lot of many religious arguments and the demographic arguments of this sort. Having said that, almost all my activism was in Tel Aviv, which is the most liberal city in Israel. But I was speaking with a lot of religious people, because I'm not approaching people. I'm not cherry picking them. I'm standing with my signs. I'm trying to find to choose obviously a relatively crowded place, so as many people would see me. But I'm not approaching people. I'm not handing leaflets. I'm not trying to start a conversation. I'm let them come to me, and when they do come to me, we are having an antinatalism discussion. To my surprise, I hope this course will continue because obviously I'm in a disadvantage regarding the religious argument, because when someone tells me God told me that I should procreate, obviously it's harder for me to counter that argument. By the way, usually my reply is that you may choose your religion and your convictions and your God for yourself and for yourself only. You can choose to do actions or to avoid doing actions that impact you. You are not allowed, and your religion is not allowed to let you force actions on others. And reproduction, procreation, creating other people is there, affecting others. It's literally creating another person. And so, if you think that your religion permits you to so severely, so crucially affect someone else, either you don't understand your religion correctly, or that your religion doesn't understand what it means to do the right thing, not to force yourself and your convictions on someone else. This is more or less a short version of my reply to the religious argument. But again, surprisingly, I do not encounter these kind of arguments that often. And again, I think maybe it relates to the fact that I'm talking to them about antinatalism. And by the way, unless you want to continue this line of thought, or can I jump to kind of what is my goal when I'm having conversation about antinatalism, a kind of a street activism? So
So
stop me if. Okay, sure.
No, it's all good. Because I was actually going to now ask you about that. So my next question was going to be about so you have recently started to, obviously you've already kind of referred to this multiple times, but just for anyone who's watching who hasn't fully got it yet. So you have decided to go out on the streets of Tel Aviv, and you either hold signs, which you've got some examples of in the background, and you're wearing a t-shirt, or you have the signs like laid out against a wall or something like that, and you basically allow people to approach you because they're intrigued by your signs, and then you have a conversation with them about antinatalism, and you've started to put pictures and videos on social media and on YouTube as well, and obviously I'll link some examples in the description so anyone can find those. But yeah, what first made you want to go out on the streets? What made you take that step and do that?
Well, I've been an animal rights activist for more than 20 years.
Right.
And my motive, my main motive and reason, the main motive behind my antinatalism is the suffering, like more or less what basically
suffering is not a right, bro.
in the beginning.
Unless you include the right not to unnecessarily suffer.
Maybe if it's okay, I
That's not really
read.
right. It's just utility. It's just logic, bro. Really gotta ask you. I mean, if you're focusing on suffering or you're focusing on right, because those things are not the same. But whatever. I mean, man.
Two quick sentences that I think capture my the way I view antinatalism. Or sorry, because I relate to all the arguments more or less. The suffering part, which is my main motive. in a nutshell, it's people should avoid procreation in order to prevent the harm that will be caused to those who will be created and by those who will be created. Since it's never necessary to create someone, but it's always necessary that the created person experience some harm and cause some harm to others, to create someone is always to cause unnecessary harm.
Cool.
And causing unnecessary harm is immoral. So this is in a nutshell, the main motivation to my antinatalism research. But the reason that I wanted to do street activism is there are the grassroots, the street activism, so to speak, and animal rights activism in general in Israel is quite developed. There are many activists and groups, and so after a while of doing that, I decided that since no one really talks about procreation and definitely not talking about the moral imposition, the moral opposition, sorry, of the imposition of procreation, but they are talking about other things, including
We
animal
are.
rights
This Kaz.
activism.
Thank you, Kaz. Very base.
I wanted to do that, to talk to people about anti-natalism, to try and do that. Israel is a great challenge. It's very pro-natalist and family-oriented, no matter if you're Orthodox or not, if you are more liberal, as Haran said. And so it's a challenge. So I had my doubts, and the timing wasn't perfect either. So I approached a few people in all kinds of child-free communities and a little bit in animal rights organizations and environmental organizations, because I didn't want to act alone. I didn't want to be kind of a solo operation, obviously. But no one answered, no one replied. I waited a little bit more, and in the meantime, I wrote arguments. I started to work on a website, on a Facebook page, and start thinking about slogans for the signs and stuff like that, and waited for people to come to join me, but they didn't. So on again exactly 5 months ago on Earth Day, April 21st, I decided to just go out solo and start my anti-natalism activism. A couple of groups of animal rights organizations have decided to conduct a march emphasizing factory farming in relation to climate change and environmental issues on Earth Day. So I joined them with 4 signs. One of them is simply the Israeli anti-natalist movement. That's the big one here. Another one is simply don't procreate, plain and simple.
See,
another one is
let's
people are
pause
causing.
this shit. I'm gonna zoop ahead and try to find where he starts talking about these people's views, because I'm honestly tired of listening to his like. I mean, it's cool that Lawrence does like this stuff, like just getting the scope and views like around the world. That's the thing. I want to see people's views around the world. I don't want to hear people's like, yeah, my neighbor disagrees with me, and I do this outdoors, and I don't really do this outdoors, and people don't really disagree with this much, but the conversations are interesting. I'm like, it's the same shit every time. But I want to hear some views. I want to be like, yeah, as a Jew, I perceive the world like this, or as in the arguments from Jewish people, it's like I got it. Yeah, people are conservative. People, but it's kind of obvious. But I mean, let's get some. I want to see some viewpoints. Okay, let's get rid of that nasty ass text. Demonstrations, don't give a shit. Anthony, let's talk. Sounds like it might be interesting. Talking friends and family sounds boring as fuck. Politics, I love politics. Cool, it's a name. Okay. 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 Outro. Let's skip to here.
Haran, I wanted to ask you now about so you you gave a talk about antinatalism a few years ago. I can't remember how many years ago now.
Me just being a prick, just
but
like
it's
this is
it's
great,
available
but I
on
don't give a
YouTube,
damn.
but it's in Hebrew. So and I've been able to watch a translated version, but I don't know if the translation is public and available. But if it isn't, hopefully it will be made available soon. But like where did you give that talk, and like how did you get the opportunity to give it?
Don't care.
So first, I would like to say that I really
I
appreciate
would like to skip ahead to what it talks about.
because in most places, if you come and you say I want to talk about not having children, no one's gonna let you up on stage. But if you talk about some form of entertainment and inject it as a kind of storytelling mechanic, I don't know how to call it, then people might think, oh, that's interesting. Maybe we can write a story about that. And that also means they're going to think about what it actually means. So that was many years ago. I don't think I would have given a similar talk today. I'm not that involved in that community anymore. And also because I'm taking part in local politics, I don't want to be how should I say? I don't want people to involve me or to see me as someone who is involved with antinatalism.
Yeah.
But still, this talk you're speaking about, I think someone translated it and sent me that translation a while ago, and I haven't uploaded the translation yet. I should probably do it.
Well, if you do, send me the link and I'll include it in the description of the video so people can find it. But so when I watched it, it was really interesting because, like, obviously being an antinatalist, like if an antinatalist watches your talk, they're not necessarily going to learn new information because they kind of already know all the arguments and stuff already. But the structure of the talk and the setting of the talk was really interesting. So if I'm remembering correctly, what you did is you started out by talking about bad guys in comics and anime.
I think I was talking about scenarios in anime or storytelling where the human race goes extinct or there's a world-ending cataclysm. And then I started talking about how we always think about the end of the world as the bad thing that happened in the story. What if we think about it as the good thing that happens in the story?
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting way to structure the talk, given who you were talking to, because obviously people are going to be interested in, oh, okay, well, this guy, he's talking about bad guys in this, in anime and stuff that we're interested in, but he's kind of flipping it on his head. So he's saying bad guys often are associated with like the end of the world, stuff like this. And we just assume that's a bad thing. But what if it actually isn't? And then you take them into the topic of antinatalism. And I thought that was like quite an inventive way of giving the talk. So I really enjoyed that. And, I think like, I congratulate you on coming up with such like an inventive way to...
Yes, back then, I think it was maybe 10 or 15 years ago, back then I was really into spreading the word about antinatalism. And I looked for every opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And so that was a good opportunity, I think. And still, I think some people really objected once they've heard my talk.
Right.
Some people very much objected and barred me from ever making talks in such conventions again in Israel.
Oh, really? Is this people in the
Damn.
audience or the
Yes,
organizers of the
people in
event?
the.
Who gives a shit about
I
that?
think it was people in the audience who might have been connected to the organizers of
Yeah.
some conventions in Israel. So yeah, after I gave this talk, I don't think I was invited to give more talks in similar conventions.
Oh no. What was the obviously that is a reaction from certain people in the audience. What other reactions did you get? Did you get any positive reactions as well?
Yes, I did. From both the organizers and the audience. People were actually very interested. They said it was interesting. It was something they've never thought about. Yeah, I think just like Nimrod described, people want to talk about this, about the philosophy, about the rationale behind it. It's interesting to them. And I think, as you say, it was for them also a surprising or creative way to talk about something that we don't think about.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. What has both of your experiences been talking about antinatalism more in your personal lives with your friends and family? Obviously, only share what you're comfortable with sharing, but what have those conversations been like? Have you spoken to family and personal friends about antinatalism, and what's it been like? Maybe Nimrod, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first because it will be very quick. All my friends are from the animal rights community, so
yeah,
most of them are antinatalists themselves. So it's not really an issue. It's almost obvious because the connection between veganism, animal rights, and antinatalism is not only obvious. It's mandatory. You can't really be an antinatalist, a non-vegan antinatalist. I know there are many antinatalists who are non-vegans.
You all suck cock.
It's beyond me. I can't understand how you can actively support the creation of a new life, of procreation.
I don't know if Amendum approves of me. Where is he?
Of a life that will be miserable from
say that
day
when I said how
one
you all
to
suck cock, it wasn't
the
to you, by
murder
the
day,
way. It
from
was
birth to death.
to my teammates in Apex
This
Legends.
is pronatalism and of the most miserable life I can imagine. So
did like
I don't think there is such a thing
500%
as
more
a
damage
non-vegan
than both of
antinatalist.
them combined.
I know they call themselves. Sorry, that's unrelated to the question. And get back to it in a moment. They're calling themselves anthropocentric antinatalists, but they are speciesist antinatalists. Just disregard sentient beings from other species, animals or other species. It's speciesism. It's speciesist antinatalism.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, what do you mean by amend? I see Amendum approves of you. You two can do live stream. I would love to do a live stream with Amendum. Not sure what we'd really talk about. Plus, Gary is not the most social of men. Gary is a little scary. But you know, as much as I want to get yelled at for being a little off topic every once in a while and cracking jokes, I don't. But I would love to have a conversation, I guess, with Gary at some point. You know, he's a great dude, but at the same time, not sure what we would talk about. I mean, we could. I'm just not sure what we would talk about. Like, there's plenty of questions I have for him. I just don't think he'd really be arsed to answer half of them. But he'd just be like, "Isn't that obvious?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I think it's obvious, but clearly half my audience doesn't think it's obvious, and I want to know like how you respond to them." And he'd just be like, "Well, they're dumbasses," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I know, but I wish there was a little bit more we could say than they're dumbasses." so you know, it's just kind of like I don't know I don't know how it go, but it might go along those lines, I imagine. But yeah, what do you mean by I see a minimum approves of you? I mean, have you seen some videos where I've talked with him and stuff? Like I've sent him money before and stuff, and so I've been on some of his physics live streams and stuff. Talk about some movies, maybe. Oh yeah, I'm be on talk about like Capernaum or Aniara or something. I don't know. antinatalist themed movies or just like movies in general. But he's like way older than me. Emendum could be my fucking grandpa or some shit, bro. So it's like I'm sure a lot of the movies like if he's seen, like, I don't have a clue. It's just like I don't like I'm sure like all the rage his days is like stuff like like I want we were just like I don't give a damn. Or it's like, oh my god, you said the word damn. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't think you're like that age in Amendment, but you might be. I'm not. I really don't know. You could be that old. Darling, I don't give a damn. Walks away. I think it's called Gone with the Wind. He's gone to movies. Oh yeah, hell yeah. I mean, most people like movies, so I'm sure we could find something to talk about. We could just like Miss Bola. It's a movie about a woman who gets kidnapped by cartel. I recommend it. Oh, okay. Is it on any type of media like Netflix, Amazon, something like that? LOL. Take a picture of my phone. Click, and I'll watch that at some point. Netflix? Okay. I will watch it on Netflix at some point. I have Netflix, so I might do that later today. I'm not really not doing shit for chat. Other than, I guess, yeah, I'm not doing shit for chat. Fuck it. Poo Avo. You can watch it for free on the internet? Oh, okay, well, fair enough. There's a lot of movies like that. Tubi and shit like that. You stream pretty much anything on Tubi these days, it seems. But yeah, man. Yo, let's get back into this video.
So I don't really have friends outside of this community, so it's not really an issue. And in family, everybody's
Tragic.
already. But they called me Nimrod. My parents. The Hebrew translation, by the way, is "We will rebel." So I guess I was signed up for this mission by my parents.
Yeah.
So this is my experience. I'm not really talking with strangers about it. Sorry, I'm talking about the strangers all the time because I'm doing the street activism, but not with
but friends and family. Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah,
no, and it's also, you know, what you were saying before is a valid point as well, because a lot of people, when they talk about antinatalism, they say that it's the view that you should not procreate. But I think more accurately, it's the view that you should not be bringing new beings into existence, right? And obviously, most notably, that's procreation. That's the most commonly talked about thing. But a potential child of yours is only one possible being that you have control over whether you bring them into existence or not. Another way is through your lifestyle, diet, etc. There are many other things that someone can do besides just personally having a child that will cause other beings to come into existence. So I totally get your observation. Haran, what's your experience been like talking to friends and family, if you have at all?
Well, first I would like to say that my view of antinatalism really started just as don't have children, but it has become today don't make any life, and we should strive for a world with no life at all of any species. So this is kind of how my belief evolved. in my personal life, I'm kind of in a small liberal bubble. And while I know few people who outright agree with my views, I have talked about my views with family and friends, and sometimes we had arguments and they
It's okay, you
disagreed,
can't
and I
post
tried to
links in the
convince them
YouTube comment
why
section
I'm right, and
anyways.
they
At least
tried
I
to
can't,
convince me
like,
why
see them.
what I'm thinking is completely bonkers.
Hmm.
But
Please
since
send live stream
I
whenever you can.
don't have much in my small bubble, I don't have much contact with very religious people or very conservative people. It hasn't been much of a problem. I felt very free to express my views about everything, and that
Good for that,
includes
dude.
women's rights and LGBT rights, and also anti-natalism.
And
But in general,
sorry, go on.
no, I think I'm just repeating myself that in general, Israel is very pro-natalist outside of my small circle.
Yeah. No, I 100% get it. So we've already kind of spoken about you guys have said that, or Nimrod was saying that at the moment Israel is going through a process of I don't know what the word you would call it is, unrest, or a bit of some political turmoil. And Nimrod was saying that, yeah, chaos. And Nimrod was saying that this chaos has caused people to perhaps, or certain people in Israel to perhaps become more open to anti-natalism, right? As a result of the political situation. Besides that, are there any political trends or laws or movements or anything like that in Israel that are relevant to anti-natalism and procreation?
Well, the sort of how can I say, the sort of advocacy that Nimrod and I do are completely different. I think maybe years ago, when I was really involved in trying to get my message to as many people as possible, I would have done things. Well, I didn't go out to the street like Nimrod does, which good on you. You're braver than I am. But I would have joined you. I think if I saw someone back then that was doing what you're doing, I would have joined you. But today, I'm more focused in changing public policy. And yes, in today's turmoil, in today's changing environment, there is, I think, a move towards liberalism, towards being a more developed country with more developed ideals and values, and that includes changing the policy changing the pro-natalist policy that we've had for many years. And so, I think this is an opportunity to convince people that we should change this kind of policy in the future. Hopefully, we can change the current government and bring along people who are more in line with what the majority of Israelis want, and that hopefully they will reduce the incentives for large families and put us on a path that is better for everyone, I think, and also a path that means that we will have less living beings brought into existence.
And Nimrod, do you have anything to add about? Do you see any sort of anything going on in Israeli politics that is relevant to anti-natalism?
Unfortunately, in Israel, despite it being what is considered a hotspot in climate crisis relation, meaning that things that will have effects of the climate crisis will be kind of doubled in Israel. That's, if I'm not mistaken, is the meaning of an area being a hotspot. Despite that, somehow this issue, the climate crisis, is not being taken seriously in Israel. Environmentalism in Israel in general is kind of a weak issue. I'm not sure why. I guess because everything is related to the security issue and to the Israeli-Palestine conflict, and so other things are set aside. Climate crisis as well, despite Israel is a hotspot. And I'm mentioning it because obviously this is not my getaway. I'm not talking about procreation through the climate crisis, but obviously it is, and it can be in other places in the world. It is, or it already is, a kind of a foot at the door, so to speak. It is a getaway. It's a good way to start a conversation about that and to start doubting and criticizing more than something deeper than in what kind of a world I'm going to create children. But thinking about the consequences of our actions to future generations. So it's a kind of thinking process that I think happens in other places, but in Israel, not really. Environmental organizations in Israel do not talk about procreation, not even about reducing procreation, at least most of them. There is some kind of organization which is more in the academic sphere. It's called, in Hebrew, it's called Tzafuf. It's like crowded, it can be crowded. And in a way, my strategic perception is that I will be the radical guy, and people will kind of meet me in the middle. And then the conversation about reducing the number of created people will be in a much more ambition starting point than if there was no radicalization or radical notions about population, which is antinatalism. I think I'm trying to do. So in a way, I'm trying to mark the more radical and ambition security border line, so people, so the majority of people will meet other organizations in the middle. So this is kind of my strategic notes about why my activism.
Yeah. So, sorry, go on.
Now, so you mentioned the organizations, the environmental organizations, and you mentioned Tzafuf. By the way, I'm part of Tzafuf's management. It's a small organization that deals specifically with the trouble of large population growth. And I run some of its activity. And one of the things we try to do is engage other organizations, such as organizations that deal with the environment, and organizations that deal with family planning, and organizations that deal with poverty, but mostly environmental organizations. And we want them to start talking about the problem of excessive population growth. But in Israel, nobody wants to talk about it because it's politically taboo, you can say. So, and I think this is why we are having trouble. Also, we are a small organization. We have a small voice, and the large organizations that deal with the environment and that should be aware of the problems that population growth are causing, they don't want to talk about it. They're trying to avoid the issue, even though it's central to the environmental issue.
And I can't. We mentioned him before, but I can't remember if it was on or off the recording. But I'm sure you've both heard of Yuval Noah Harari. He's a well-known author around the world and intellectual. And he's a vegan. He even wrote a foreword to Animal, one of the editions of Animal Liberation by Peter Singer. His ethics seem to be quite focused on suffering. And I've made a video about him before because there was an interview he did where he was asked by the interviewer if he would ever have kids. And he was talking, he talked about how he doesn't think it's responsible to bring someone into a world that you don't fully understand. The world is such a complicated place with so much harm being done in it. And, he was saying, like, he doesn't understand it. Even him, as a very educated, very intelligent person who thinks deeply about these issues, which most people don't, he doesn't understand the world. And so what right does he have to put someone in a world that he doesn't understand? But also he mentioned that if he created someone, he would also be responsible for their death. And he said that was too much of a burden for him. He didn't want to be responsible for someone else's death. And so whilst he hasn't explicitly said that he is anti-natalist, it seems like the sentiment is there, and it seems like he's somewhat close to it.
But it's just emotionality and fucking appeal to like nothing. Like this is just bullshit. That's what you and all these subjectivist motherfuckers are. Like it's just like you're just trying to convince each other through like what? It's just a game basically. Like I feel this and I want you to feel this because it makes me feel better. Like you don't actually have a reason. You don't really like think it's wrong per se. You just don't like feeling bad. So you don't do what makes you feel bad because you're an egoist. Basically, you're selfish. It's just like it's not admirable. It's not something to praise. It's like okay, cool. You consequentially agree with me. It's like it's like. The rest battle you're on my side, but when the war comes, it's like, as Mendham says, it's like you're not my fucking soldier. You're just a dude with a gun that can easily pull the trigger on me.
And obviously, the reason I'm bringing this up is because he's from Israel. He's Israeli. Do you think that there are many antinatalists in Israel? Obviously, there are not loads of antinatalists in any country, but relatively speaking, there's a high proportion of antinatalists compared to other countries.
I think that it doesn't. There is a quite large child-free community on Facebook, and I think I'm pretty sure they're meeting physically every once in a while. In fact, the administrator of one of the books, one of the most popular, biggest books, gave an interview on a mainstream media show just a few days ago, this week. it was kind of a panel show. And she had a very short time to express her opinions. So it didn't went well, but not because of her. I think she did a very good job with the poor conditions that she got. But as a panel show, they're throwing questions and there are brilliant notes that they very well thought of. I thought to myself, I'm glad that David Benatar doesn't understand Hebrew because he'll probably take everything back after hearing their arguments. So there is a quite large child-free community. I'm not aware of the anti-natalism community. I would like to start one myself or join one if there is one, but I'm not aware of a community like that. Of such character. Regarding Vano Harari, I share your.
Why would they fight you though?
I think that causing someone else death is a very deep argument.
They would
It's not
fight
intuitive,
me once
and I'm
they
trying to use it
start
on the streets,
saying
taking
that
the
they're
streets
not
so to
doing
speak,
shit for
and
shit,
it doesn't work
and
as well as
that
other
they're
arguments
at
so far.
cost
Maybe
to
I'm not doing
me.
it good enough
That's not
being an
fight me.
advocate of it because I think it's a great argument. So maybe I should sharpen my tools, but it is a deep argument. So I'm glad to hear. I didn't know that he used this argument. I know that he's at least sympathetic to anti-natalism. I didn't know he's using this argument, and I'm glad to hear it because it's deep and it makes one think. Besides that, he's a very popular and quite liked figure in Israel. Maybe in the last year a little bit less because he supports the demonstration side and is very divided right now. But at least until 9 months from now, he was very popular.
Yeah, there are a few people in the world that are very popular, are vegan, and also seem to have anti-natalist sentiments. There's Yuval Noah Harari, and there's also Ricky Gervais, the comedian. He also seems to be on the same wavelength. And there are a few other people as well, but they're maybe slightly less known. Yeah, Haran, did you have anything else to add on whether there's many anti-natalists in Israel, or?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I would guess no.
Yeah.
But it's also possible that people do not express their actual beliefs because of societal pressures. Yeah, I know I've spoken to many religious people who will, in private, tell me that they support my ideals of freedom of religion, but they will not dare voice it in their community.
Right.
So it's possible that there are people who agree with anti-natalism, but will not say so publicly.
Yeah. No, I 100% get you, and I think that's the case in quite a lot of countries.
Yeah, well,
there was actually
that's the case, you guys. You just like to have these all happy-go-lucky things, like, oh, I think more people agree with us than we think, and I think it's fine to just to each their own things, and just I think this stuff of emotions, and I like when other people agree with me based off of emotions, or whatever. To each, as long as I win in the end, I'm Lawrence. Hee hee hoo hoo hoo. Fuck all this shit, man. No.
I might not get all the details of this correct because I was not there. But from what I've seen online, there is a center in Israel called the Center for Political and Moral Philosophy. I would assume it's attached to a university in Israel somewhere because it sounds like the sort of center that would be attached to a university. Anyway, so each year they host some sort of conference event around a specific topic. And this year, the topic of the conference was the value of human life. And it included a talk on anti-natalism.
So valuable.
Now, the conference was in person. It wasn't recorded. Actually, I'm not sure if it was in person, but it wasn't recorded anyway. So I wasn't able to access it, and I am not able to access it after the fact either because it wasn't recorded. But it does seem like there is discussion going on about anti-natalism in certain circles in Israel. Have either of you seen any discussion of anti-natalism in any of the media in Israel, like on a radio, in the newspaper, on TV, or anything like that? Haran, do you want to go first if you've seen anything?
Actually, I have no idea. I didn't know about the conference you were talking about. Sounds interesting and surprising. And also, I think it was never discussed on any media, and I don't know if anyone else in the world it was discussed on mainstream media. I do know that child-free people have voiced their thoughts and opinions in the media before, but not specifically the view that bringing life is causing harm.
Yeah.
Like the basic concept of
community or a strong anti-natalist movement in Israel, the same way that it seems like there's quite a strong vegan community and animal rights movement, because I remember, I'm not sure if both of you know of him, but Gary Yourofsky, he's quite a well-known animal rights activist. And he's Jewish, but I believe he was born and raised in America, or at least he lives in America. I don't know if he was born there, but
yeah, basically, why would people fight me? Essentially, when it comes down to it, I'm a negative utilitarian. I believe that all that matters is suffering reduction in terms of what we ought to do, what we should do, what is right to do. Sure, pleasure is okay. It's Gucci for the one who experiences it, but that's not what we ought to do. Each action has a moral value to it. Inaction is an action, so every moment of every day is a moral weight attached to it, basically. And so essentially, not doing something of weight and value, trying to reduce suffering, is immoral, basically. Uh, and when it comes down to it, there's gonna be a ton of people in the future who are just kind of like, yeah, having kids. I wouldn't do it, but if my neighbor or my best friend has a kid, I'm gonna congratulate them, pat them on the back, give them a hug, and say, I hope you guys have a great life. And then they're gonna have a kid. Their kid's gonna die of cancer, and their kid's gonna have a kid before that happens, and the cycle continues. In other words, why would they fight me? Because I have problems with people who are subjectivists, who are to each their ownists, who are just. I don't have a problem with that myself, but I wouldn't do it, so we should be allies. No. No, we're not allies. We are just fighting a similar battle. My battle is to actually protect someone, and yours is to just feel good as a child-free person, or to basically feel like you have a moral high horse by being like, yeah, it's wrong to have kids because I feel that way. Not because it's actually wrong, Lawrence, but because you feel that way. You feel it's wrong. And it makes you uncomfy. You want other people to feel uncomfy too, because it makes you feel good when people agree with you. It's like, okay, cool. But when it comes down to it, though, someday I'm gonna be there saying, no, you guys have to fucking step up to the plate, or you're a waste of space. You take up oxygen, so to speak. You basically are just blights. No one on this planet doesn't cause suffering. So at some point, we're gonna justify our existences. We're gonna be like, we cause suffering to live. Living is not necessary. It's never in any of our favors to live. It's just suffering for no reason. Life is suffering. So it's just life is unnecessary. Why live? To reduce suffering for others, basically. So it's just like if you get once we get to the point where most of these things are taken care of, it's going to come down to a lot of unnecessary suffering for a lot of people. So why would people fight me? Basically, why would people that are antinatalists have gripes with me? Because someday I'm gonna be out there saying, "No, you fuckers, you need to stand up and do something of value. You can't just be sitting around just being like, oh yeah, stop having kids because I feel that." You have to be actually fighting a value. You have to be fighting a fight with value and like you'd be having a backbone to something. Because someday those moral anti-realists are who you're fighting. It's not just Christians and religious folk and a bunch of woo-ah fuckers. It's gonna be people out here with like actual like arguments like yo, I don't feel this. I'm a fucking psychopath and I don't feel this shit. What are you gonna do about it? It's not gonna be some religious person being like, oh God and stuff, and you can prove that their God's a fucking sadist, and then all their love shit's bullcrap, eventually it's just gonna come down to a bunch of anti-realists and a bunch of moral nihilists and a bunch of subjectivists, and it's just gonna be a battle of emotions versus people that believe that pain actually has value. And guess what? I'm on the side that pain actually has value. So people like Anton, people like Corey, people, the two Antons, Lawrence Anton, Corey Anton, other people like that. A bunch of different people are going to be basically out there saying either there's value because of God, or and we could probably defeat that pretty easily, or they're going to be like Lawrence Anton saying, no, there is no value whatsoever. It's just emotions, and I want to appeal to that. And that's a battle that you can't win, Anton. You cannot win that battle. There's always going to be people that are going to say, no, my emotions don't give a shit about your emotions. I do what I want to do. So that's why I have fights. When will you tell them though? Well, I'm telling them right now. If Lawrence Anton sees this video, he can respond to it, you know. I'm saying my piece every day, baby. So I'm not hiding. When will you tell them? I'm saying it right now. This is a public forum. Oh shit! Shots fired. Basically. Do you? But yeah, that's pretty much the way I look at it. Is like someday people are gonna have to start proving their fucking worth. Right now, it's just kind of like it's really easy to generate enough value for me to be like, you know, you're okay. You know, you're okay. Because most people on this planet generate what I call negative value. They're basically just pain generators. They're blights. They're filth upon this earth. People like Lawrence at the moment, I have disagreements with them, but I think they're good. They're not blights. They are forces of good, even if they're not doing it for the right reasons. They are essentially people like Perpetual Pleasurists, Benatar, Peter Singer, people like this, like bunch of people out here that are reducing net suffering, but they're not doing it because my fucking headset cut out. Testing 1 2. Okay. Yeah. Basically, there's a bunch of motherfuckers out here that are reducing net suffering, but not doing it for the purpose of reducing net suffering. They're doing it because they want to feel good, or because they want desires to be fulfilled, or not unfulfilled, or whatever. You know, basically they have like reasons, but they're not the right reasons. And someday it's gonna come down to hashing out these reasons for, and unfortunately people like Lawrence, they don't have a reason. They just say I feel this, and that's not a good that's not ammunition for the fucking battle. That's we know there's a battle coming for reducing suffering in this world. And when it comes down to it, saying I feel that that's bad is not ammunition. So you basically they're just in the way, and when it comes down to it, they need to prove their worth because they're also causing suffering. And you know, I'm not saying I'm not saying they're the enemy per se, but they're sure as hell not the ally. So, and they can easily become the enemy if they start saying like, "Oh, but you're imposing on me," and I'm like, "Yeah, but you're imposing on everybody else every fucking second of your day, basically." So, yeah, I mean, everybody's imposing all the time. So the instant they start pointing at us, being like, "You're imposing on us," to stop you from imposing on others, that's when they're becoming the enemy too, and that's a really easy thing to achieve. So, because you see it all the time, you see it in noodles, you see it on a bunch of people, like you're the enemy because you imposed death on a rabbit. I prevented that rabbit from suffering. It was gonna die eventually, no matter what. See, people become the enemy really fucking quickly, my friends. You see, they think you there. You think you there. Sorry, they put this illusion, this facade that they're your ally, and then all of a sudden it just crumbles because you do one little thing, and it's something that they have no real reason to. They have no reason to be upset about. It's just an emotion, and emotions are strong in neurotypicals. Neurotypicals are kind of a blight to this earth, in my opinion. I'm pretty much a psychopath, so I mean, perhaps I'm biased. But when it comes down to it, people who are just like, "Oh, I feel this, and therefore it's right," we're wrong. Yeah, blights to the earth, in my opinion. For the most part, they can be consequentially good for some reasons, but for the most part, waste of spaces. So, yeah. Sorry, Noodles didn't make do the shots fired again. I'm always shooting shots at Noodles ever since that conversation, where it's just like him being all these silly things and like do not watch and silly shit. There's all this silly shit going on. See, people become the enemy really fast. You like 1 second you're just talking about antinatalism. Next they shift it to something about like, oh, you said this, and then it's like, oh, now they're talking about killing a rabbit, possibly preventing a super disease from wiping out all life on Earth, and therefore you've committed a moral wrong. I'm talking about do not watch. So in other words, people become the enemy really fast. They will try to start to like attack beliefs just for clout. They'll try to attack beliefs because their friend got attacked, so in-group tribalism reasons. You know, I'm shooting a lot of shots today, but shots fired, yo, more shots fired, bang, bang, bang. But when it comes down to it, yeah, like people become the enemy really fast. So all these subjectivist people, all these woo-wah folks with like very lackluster, no backbone reasons for being an antinatalist. So yeah, they become the enemy. Anyways, I'm gonna go smoke. I've been an hour and 26 minutes of streaming. It means I haven't smoked in an hour and 26 minutes minimum. Guessing it's probably been like an hour and 45. So I'm feeling a little too sober at the moment. Be back in 10. Gonna throw up a banner that says BRB. I don't have the link to join. I don't really feel like talking to anybody at the moment. If someone wants to join and talk to me, you can. Depending on who it is, I'll consider sending the link. Tell your brother to come on Do Not Watch. We need someone new in there. Well, my brother is a douchebag, but he's an egoist who likes to have people talk to him, and he likes to be heard. So I'm sure he would love to talk about his mining rigs going brr and destroying the planet and praising the machine gods or something. So yeah, I can tell him to go on the Do Not Watch stream, I guess. But he's on campus right now, so I'm not gonna. You know what? Fuck it. I'll just send him a Snapchat. Yo, a bunch of my subscribers say to have you go on the Do Not Watch live stream because you were on that one time. Apparently, they think that they want someone who's normal and like a unique voice rather than a bunch of echo chamber bullshit. There we go. Sent him the message. I'll be right back. Putting the banner up. Gone smoke. Feel free to comment. Yo, I just realized I can technically bring the phone outside. So now you get a view of now you get a nice view of the living room and here. That's pretty cool, I guess, for you. Yeah, not really. But nonetheless, well, I guess it's the basement, not living room. But yeah, you get a view of the living room and you get a view of the outside. So cool, you know. Y'all can hear me, right? Like, just to make sure. I'm gonna test that out. Testing 1, 2. Okay, yeah, you can all hear me. And what's funny, there's always YouTubers that ask that people can hear them, but they can just flip their camera off and see the little circle thing go up and down and see themselves if they're talking or not. But whatever. I'm just talking shit. Shots fired. You know, just talking shit to everybody everywhere. Yo, what's going on, right, my dude? Yourself? On a subjective level, that is. Objectively, life is miserable. Every moment is miserable. There's nothing redeemable about any aspect of life, ever. But I'm feeling okay at the moment. Nah, man. It's not an opinion. We're born into deprivation. We're born into need every single thing you desire: friendship, socialization, love, food, water, shelter, religious fulfillment, enlightenment, all these things, everything you ever desire. You're born into need for these things, you know? You don't actually, it's not like a neutral that then you're achieving a positive to it. It's like you're born into like a state of pain. You're born into a state of need where you desire these things, and if you're not fulfilling them, then you feel pain. You feel like unfulfillment and negative. So you're not really achieving anything. You're basically just like getting rid of a bad. So when it comes down to it, yeah, I mean, I don't view it as an opinion, but you can say it's my opinion. But I guess I prefer saying in my perspective. In my perspective, everything is just suffering and prevention of suffering. So good is essentially prevention of suffering for the most part. There are maybe some sensations that are a true positive, like I don't know, love at first sight or something, but like maybe some sensations. I mean, even that, like that's like no, love at first sight. It's not a really good example because that's like I don't know. There has to be something out there maybe that's like pleasurable and feels good that doesn't have like some sort of need programmed into it or cost like up front, you know, where you're like basically already in some type of discomfort or pain. But for the most part, I think primarily almost everything is a need machine thing. So yeah, when it comes down to it, a majority of sensations are painful and are just relieving suffering, hunger, thirst, social needs, religious needs, stuff like that. But I understand why a lot of people disagree. I just feel that most people that disagree are disagreeing from an emotion rather than reasons. But yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay subjectively. Objectively, though, I'm just fulfilling needs. I mean, there's a difference between eating bread to keep on living and eating a really nice meal. Oh yeah, there is, yeah. But one's just, in my opinion, fulfilling boredom, like taste boredom. Like, if your mouth always tastes, I mean, like, I guess it's like, as Eastern religion puts it, like, if you didn't have the desire for sweet things and, like, tart things or whatever, like, all these, like if our mouths didn't taste so, like, dull and, like, full of, like, dead bacteria and shit like that, like, and they actually tasted good all the time, like, we really have a desire for, like, a luxurious meal. We would be satisfied with it. We would just be like, bread is just as good as steak or cheesecake, it's just as fulfilling because all we care about is, like, caloric intake. But because, our mouths are so, like, fucking generically boring, and because life is so boring, we desire excitement. And hence, you're basically just trying to fulfill another desire. But I don't know. I mean, it's just a very pessimistic perspective. I guess this is kind of reaching, I suppose. But even Eastern religion, if you do give certain things, as I said, there are certain things that I do view as primarily pleasurable. So I'm playing devil's advocate here for that one, for this specific argument you just put up here. I'm just trying to think of, like, if you could essentially argue that is solely a need-based thing. I'm willing to admit that potentially does have actual pleasures attached to it, because I don't think it really matters at all. Like, I've already thought about this stuff. I don't really think it matters. Because as Eastern religion says, and negative utilitarianism would say, like, yeah, like, there could be an actual positive that comes along with that. Like, you're primarily eating the meal that tastes good because you need to satisfy the calories and because there's, like, boredom and stuff. But there is some type of true pleasure attached to it that is tasty and good and satiating and just enjoyment, raw enjoyment. It's good. But after that meal is done, which is quickly, you only have short moments of taste pleasure, really. You begin to miss the meal. That's one form of pain. You begin to compare other forms of food to that new food that you've just had, which tastes really good. Another form of pain. You can think it's not as good as you expected, which is another form of pain. Yeah, you're just disappointed by the short-livedness. I'm not sure if I already said that once. I'm not going to add another finger. I mean, there's basically, like, the way I look at it is, like, even those primary pleasures that are true and real have at least 3 forms of pain attached to them as well. So it's just like, even though you achieve pleasure, you can never achieve pleasure without suffering. So, I mean, I guess it's true that our body rewards us when we do something that is important to keep living, but I guess I can enjoy my body rewarding me with feeling happy. After that meal is done, I will lay in bed if I have time, be happy that I am full, and sleep. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But then eventually dissatisfaction will come. I mean, it's possible you could be just fully satiated with the meal and just go to sleep. I mean, most people just don't really think about things, of that nature. I mean, I don't really think about food. I just kind of intake calories. I don't really. I mean, if it tastes good, I just kind of enjoy it, and then once it's done, it's done. I guess. But it's like when you have something really tasty and it's on the last bite, you just kind of like, The fuck was that? Weird ass thing. I mean, exactly. That's my point. You said, I mean, pleasure without suffering is a kind of unrealistic because nothing will come without giving something for it. Yeah, exactly, my friend. And I'm saying that suffering is not worth pleasure. It's not worth it to. It's not worth it to cause harm to another being, or I mean, for pleasure. I mean, like when it comes down to it, for yourself, sure, maybe, but that's not what life is about. Life isn't just a closed system with us in it, really. Life includes a multiplayer game. And when it comes down to it, most of our pleasure comes at the cost of pain to another, not to ourselves. It comes at the cost to others. So, yeah, when it comes down to it, yeah, there is no escape to the cost. Now, my cost I'm willing to pay is pain for pain. If you cause pain to prevent a greater amount of pain, Gucci, okay? You've done a good thing. You've prevented suffering. Now, if you cause pain for an orgasm, you cause pain to feel good, to feel love, to joy, whatever pleasurable emotion. That's unnecessary suffering for selfish gain. And I don't think that's very Gucci. If there's anything if there's such thing as an unethical action and wrong action, it is causing unnecessary suffering for the price of pleasure or nothing, just causing unnecessary suffering, basically. So, what is the next comment? Yeah, but that is just what it is like. It is a trade, and I would not even like something that is free. Well, I'm sorry, my friend, but if life offers you something for free, you take it and you grab it by the balls, okay? It's a silly little principle thing that's just indoctrinated you, probably for the sake of trying to win this argument, really, to say that you wouldn't take something for free. You wouldn't take water for free if you were dying. You're honestly trying to tell me that if you were dying right in front of me, that you were starving to death, you wouldn't. If I offered you food, you'd you wouldn't take it. You'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I must offer you a price, but I don't have any money on me. I guess I must die." No, that's bullshit. I mean, it's not always suffering. Sometimes also working, which is a form of suffering, which is not pleasure but more neutral. I mean, you think working isn't suffering? You think? I mean, I don't know about that, man. I'm not here to win this argument. I'm here to understand your opinion and maybe also share mine. Fair enough, but everything is an argument here, my friend. Sorry to say, because frankly, as I said before, our inaction is costly. Every moment you're not doing something to prevent suffering, somebody out there is dying / being tortured, raped, brought into existence to face all three of those things and more. Just because we decide to play video games and talk to our friends and go to McDonald's, eat a hamburger. So, when it comes down to it, yeah, suffering is vastly important, and I'm going to argue. That controversial bitch. I feel like this is perpetual pleasurist, but I'm not entirely sure if that's perpetual pleasurist. But maybe I have no clue. He has a woman as his profile picture who has a very long, pale face with a gray filter. So I'm assuming it's perpetual pleasures, but it could be someone else. I could try and I could not prevent any of this if it was not sitting here and try to prevent this early. Well, guess what, my friend? I do activism all the time. I'm doing activism right now. I'm talking to you. So, assuming that you are a fertile male, or that you know fertile males or females who are fertile, you have the ability to convince them with your words. Or with a knife. Just kidding, don't do that. You have an ability to convince them with your words to not reproduce. And so, therefore, I highly recommend you do so. You do have the ability to, you know, uh, what's the word you said? Prevent any of this. You have the ability to prevent some of this. So, you can do stuff, my boy. You just gotta believe in yourself. You just gotta stand up. Prevent what? I don't know. Like birth, suffering, animal torture. You could become vegan. You could become a vegan activist. You could be an antinatalist like me, or an ethicist like me, and you can prevent people from coming into existence by convincing people that it's wrong because of risk of hell, reincarnation, unnecessary suffering, imposition, XYZ, so forth, whatever reason you find deemed worthy of arguing, I guess. So, I mean, there's plenty of things you can do to prevent suffering in existence. You just need to do so and get off your ass, Mahomes life. I mean, do you just want everybody to die so that they do not suffer? I mean, essentially, I want everybody to not reproduce. One, that means no bringing new lives into existence. And then for the remaining lives to stop existing, so that they no longer suffer. Now, if someone were to voluntarily choose to suffer, do I have problems with that? Kind of. I feel like they're an idiot, but do I really care? Not too much. No, I don't really have too much gripes with it. So, would I go out of my way to like end the life of some person who's not causing suffering to anybody else, but just wants to suffer themselves and exists because they're scared of death or whatever? They're just being illogical and silly. No, probably not. No, unfortunately, you do, my friend. Every moment of this, it's hard to convince people that life is suffering but believe me, you will suffer if you don't already. But yeah, when it comes down to it, there's boredom, there's hunger, there's loneliness, there's infinite level of pains that we go through every day that I highly doubt much of your life really compensates for, if you're being completely honest with yourself in terms of meaning. Maybe I do, but I do not recognize it as suffering, so I think it's hard to argue. Well, I just use suffering different, I guess. I mean, when I say suffering, I just mean unnecessary pain, basically. Like, sure, I guess I could say torturous suffering you don't experience, but like my friend who committed suicide earlier this year, she experienced torturous suffering. And yeah, I don't think you probably experienced torturous suffering because if you did, you probably would be more sympathetic. But when it comes down to it, we all experience unnecessary levels of suffering throughout our lives. It's just an inevitability. No one goes throughout life without experiencing suffering unnecessarily. You do not really feel any pain in life. Okay, I'm talking to a robot, guys. It's pretty cool here. I'm talking to a robot. So if I met you in the woods and just fucking stabbed you in the gut, you wouldn't feel that, my dude? Or are you saying that no, you've never stubbed your toe in your life? But if I were to stab you, you would feel it. You know, you're just a lucky guy. You're just lucky. You've never stubbed your toe. You've never had a hunger pain. You eat perfect times, every single ratio. You never felt too full. You never felt too. I'll use that word in a different sense. What sense do you fucking mean then? Because when I say pain, I mean aversive responses. I mean anything that's bad, anything that's negative, anything that's not wanted or desired at all. Anything that's like a negative thing. That's pain. There's emotional pain. There's physical pain. And both of those are aversive responses. Either like ow aversive response or like I didn't like that aversive response. Either way, it's an aversive response. Well, I thought your older video of yours was playing in the second window. Meanwhile, you are gone before you mentioned. No. I'm just outside basically. No, yeah. People think that this is a video playing of. To anybody that thinks this is a video playing in the past, no, this is 1:18 p.m. Wednesday, 27th. This is live, baby. So, in the video right there, that is also live. That's just in the basement. So, yeah, I figured. I mean, as frequency, I do not feel pain often. Well, that's where you're probably wrong. I mean, uh, stop for a moment. Itchy, 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 scratch, scratch, scratch. Think of the insects around your body right now and all the dead skin on yourself. Think of it right now. The dead skin, just oils built up all over you. The oils built up right on your nose, the crevice of your nose. Yeah. Pretty sure I'm right because you cannot all of you. No, there's itches, scratches, little tiny little discomforts going around in your body all the time, my friend. I mean, aversive responses are going on in your body all the time. Biologically, your cells are dying off all the time. So unless you're like completely nerve dead and you're also a psychopath at the same time, I highly doubt you're not going through boredom. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, isn't he at least a little bit bored? So you're not bored, you're not itchy, you never scratch your arms, you don't have anything going on in your body. Your cells don't die off and your body's not trying to get rid of you're not trying to achieve homeostasis in any way. This motherfucker here is not trying to achieve homeostasis. He is truly Jesus. He's constantly in balance, motherfuckers. Everybody here we found the perfect man. Scientists capture him. We need to take his genetics. We need to pry him open, rip his ribcage open. He is the negative totalitarian Jesus. Come on, man. You are the sacrifice. You are our Lamb of God. We are going to tear you open, rip apart your genetics to the very core, pry your DNA apart, and we are all going to become be sentient dead. Bro, chill. I respect you and also request you to respect my opinion. I don't respect someone who's going to say that they don't suffer and they don't feel pain in any sense. You're lying. You're a fucking liar. Or your truth or whatever you call it. Yeah. Yeah. You're fucking lying here. No one on this planet doesn't feel any sense of emotional or physical pain on a somewhat frequent basis. Like, you would literally have to be a vegetable, bro. You would literally have to be a vegetable. So either you're a liar or you're just don't understand what pain is and you're an idiot. So I'm sorry. But no, guys, I'm pretty sure we found an alien. I'm pretty sure we found the Jesus himself. So a different view of the world. Dude, you're literally a genetic phenomenon, or you're a liar. Or you're an idiot. One of the three. Either you do not know what pain is, you're just trying to disagree with me, or you're trying just to disagree with me for no reason in particular, which means you're an idiot. You don't feel pain whatsoever, which means you're a fucking alien or some phenomenon on this earth that needs to be dissected in a lab and have all your genes implemented in everything else, or you're just a liar, I guess. I mean, yeah, you're basically don't know what pain is, you're lying to me, or you're basically some miracle cure that doesn't suffer. So every second of life, okay, my bad, not every second of your life, my bad. And unless someone goes a gratuitous length out of their way to make you suffer, you don't suffer. You just, unless someone goes up to you and trips you and kicks you over and calls you a bitch, spits on you, unless someone like me is being a complete asshole right now, like, you're just Gucci. Like, how are you feeling right now? I'm genuinely curious. Me being slightly rude, a stranger over the internet, someone who has no connection to you whatsoever, how am I making you feel right now? How am I making you feel? Because if I'm making you feel bad in any way, I think you're an idiot. Because you don't know what pain is. Because that's what pain is. Pain is making you feel bad. And if I can make you feel bad as just some fucking rando, then I'm sure you can suffer. So, and if I'm not making you feel bad, then I don't feel bad at all. I feel interested in why you think so. Cool, that's great. I'm glad you're not feeling bad. I feel interested in why you think so. Great, not on every second of your life. So, you've established that you don't need to feel bad. Believe me, I don't feel bad. I'm a psychopath. I'm just glad as a native utilitarian that I'm not causing you unnecessary suffering. That I'm not being a dickhead. So, well, consequently, I'm still being a dickhead, but I'm not doing anything consequentially bad because you're not suffering. All that matters is the suffering. So if I'm not causing you any suffering, then I'm not doing anything bad. So when it comes down to it, great. We're not doing a bad thing here by being a dickhead. But let's just say, not every second of your life. Yeah, but okay, you literally, most people are going through significant levels of discomfort most times. They either have itches in their body, they have like chronic pain, they have boredom, they have stresses financially, they're crying for random ass reasons. Like people go through shit all the fucking time and are constantly stressed about things. So either you're a phenomenon, or and they also have happy times in life. Yeah, but guess what? Those happy times wouldn't be missed out on if they were gone. If they didn't exist, they wouldn't miss any of those things. Okay, like here's an analogy. Like, okay, I guess it's hard to explain this from like from a ground level, because this is like kind of theme on the channel. I usually get into this, like, okay, whatever. Identity nihilism. All fucking hey, I don't want to explain identity nihilism to this guy. Basically, this idea of like all identity is makes you is constantly being destroyed. Not the same person you were 10 years ago, nor you're the same person you were 5 minutes ago or before this conversation. Given that, and given the fact that the asymmetry argument, which is the argument that essentially you're not being deprived of anything by not being born, like if you're not like a non-existent being cannot be deprived of something. So same principle applies to identity nihilism, basically, because, you know, we're constantly being born, destroyed, basically. So, you know, that being said, you think you want to keep living, but really you're not actually wanting to keep living. You just have this illusion that you want to keep living. The reality is you are constantly dying. You are constantly imposing life on future versions of yourself. Not even of yourself, future versions of a similar creature. It's like creating a clone of you. You're basically creating clones, okay? Things that are going to be different to you, but similar enough to you that you are like, oh, look at that, that's me, but it's not. So that's basically what is going on here. So I mean, like, you think you want to live, you think you want to continue living, all these things. That's not the case. That's not going to ever happen. It's just imposing new life. It's just imposing harm. So all these happy times, they all come at the cost of imposing harm upon a new being. So unless you're cool with your happiness, which isn't going to be really, it's just extraordinarily temporary, coming at the cost of another being's suffering, which is always going to be the case, what would you recommend me to do? Make sure that your cost of suffering is worth it. Okay? That's my recommendation for everybody. It's always been. Make sure that you prevent more suffering than you manifest, is my recommendation for all things, okay? You've got to basically try to prevent net suffering. You gotta try to prevent people from coming into existence, my friend. Convince people that Earth is wrong. Go vegan. Hunt things for more comfort than suffering. Are you vegan? Are you vegan? Are you scrapitarian slash whatever, the opportunistic vegan or whatever they want to call it, a freegan? Because I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that you, unless you're one of those and you're just a really benevolent person, I highly doubt you cause more comfort than suffering. Unless you're talking on like some locally made phone source materials. Whatever you're talking on probably comes from slave labor. So we all cause a very significantly amount of suffering. All of us, me included, we cause a significant amount of suffering. The question is, do you do something to prevent enough suffering to compensate for the mass amounts of suffering that we all cause? Because we all cause massive amounts of suffering. All of us, just to live, every single one of us. No person on earth does not need to take a life, basically, to some extent or another, to, live. I don't care about your comforts to other people, man. Who? Like, do you have children? Because you impose death on them also, like cancer and stuff, just for, like, it's like, I do not, cool. Who? I mean, like, they don't have children, that's great. Okay. So, like, who do you cause comfort to that wouldn't be replaced by someone else if you weren't there? Why wouldn't they be mad at my parents for giving birth? I mean, I don't believe in free will, so it's not exactly like it's their fault per se, but they didn't need to do so. They didn't. They just wanted to play house. They just wanted a little toy, They just wanted to basically have a little baby and kid to have fun with and do the little thing and hold the strings on, become a little Christian boy, hop it around and do this little dance as a Christian until he dies and goes the whisks way to heaven and do their little job. But no, it didn't turn out that way, did it now? And well, it's just, you know, the guy that lives in the house that they have a moral responsibility for, that they feel to have some type of obligation for as a parent, you know, and are trying to kick out of the house now because they don't like me and not because I don't like them. Yeah, basically, it's a two-way street, and I mean, I guess we would not be missed, but I do appreciate certain people around me. Well, I do too. I mean, I appreciate a lot of people in my life. I appreciate some people in my audience. I appreciate my friends. Even I don't even like my family very much, but I kind of hate their guts for the most part. But even certain aspects of what they do for me, I appreciate. So, I mean, I appreciate people, and I appreciate a lot of aspects of human nature, but it doesn't mean that I don't also recognize that a lot of it, if not a majority, if not completely all of it, is 100% just survival based, evolution based mechanisms to propagate our genes that make us feel good when we do these things, like socialize. So it's more likely to pass on your genes, being kind to people, whatever. Like, so friends, family, all these things, all these connections. Like, I recognize the backbone is an evolutionary basis. No, it's just yeah, we're just one giant piece of system of society, and yeah, all society is just evolutionarily there to pass on your genes. So. No, the world is a better place with me in it, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't. I wish the world didn't need people like me. I'm a literal psychopath that I'm a literal psychopath, bro. I have homicidal ideation. I want to hack people up, okay? So when it comes down to it, like the fact that the world needs people like me, just literally anybody that has any sensibility of ethics. And what about me? Well, that depends on if you change, bud. Right now, you're just the average Joe. The average Joe is a useless blight to the planet. You probably eat meat. You haven't said otherwise. You basically just and dairy. So you're basically just going around consequentially via supply and demand, bringing things into existence for your own selfish means of life and pleasure, taste pleasure, orgasmic pleasure, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You're still just consequentially in terms of what you do as a result of your actions, still the average Joe. So when it comes down to it, yeah, you basically you eat meat, you shit out that meat, you go about life, bring things into existence by supply and demand. You buy your iPhone or Apple or Android, whatever it is, watch slave labor, supply and demand, bring more of them into existence just to be slaves and die on a lithium mine. Like, what are you doing to compensate for that? Other than entertaining me in this conversation, probably not a whole lot. So it's kind of just like, that's a whole fucking lot of suffering for a whole lot of not suffering prevented, bro. So for you, do you think that would be a better place if you weren't alive? Probably. But that's also like 99.9% of the planet I think is better off dead. So I think like we don't need most people on the planet. Most people on the planet are just blights to the earth, just destroying and hurting things just for their own selfish means of survival and propagation. So yeah, you're not special in your blightness. Don't take offense to it. But yeah, you and everybody else pretty much better off And what is the other 0.001%? And what would the world look like if they were alive? They look like me. They look like Ephelis. They look like people that want to prevent suffering above all else. They look like people that are willing to get up on their feet and do activism and be hated and have people frown upon their views. It looks like people who are willing to take a bullet for the cause or willing to, like stuff like that. It looks like, people who are actually, trying to cause change in the world. And what would the world look like if those were alive? Well, that's the thing. It would look pretty barren. We would probably hunt things to extinction on a mass level, genetically engineer shit out of existence, and nuke the planet to high hell. So, when it comes down to it, it'll be nothing. The planet would be a wasteland of nothing. There would be no life. There'd be no suffering. If we were the only ones alive, it would be a short-lived experience. We would take care of the shithole and exit. And they're all just blips. You're a blip, and they're a blip. And the only thing that matters is your suffering, really. Well, we can't do that, my friend. Our technology would decay on an atomic level before we could ever reach another solar system of life. But even if we could, we should, but we can't. So, in regards to you being special, because I feel like that's a more entertaining subject to other people. Yeah, we all have people in our lives that are special to us, and I'm special to my mommy and to my daddy. And Shamira was special to me, but she's dead now. But guess what? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter in a moral sense if someone's special to me. What do my emotions manifest? It's because I believe something doesn't matter. I believe in a unicorn. I believe in God. I believe in I believe someone's special to make them special, to make them worth living. But my best friend's a rapist, and I think they're special. Does that make them worth something? Does it make the life suddenly worth living? Does it undo the fact that they're a fucking piece of shit rapist? No. We're all blights. You're blight. Your friend's blight. Whoever you think is special doesn't change the fact that they cause suffering to animals. They cause suffering to some guy named Jamal in a fucking slave mine in fucking Afghanistan. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think of them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that they cause suffering unnecessarily and that they're doing nothing to compensate for it. Nothing. So you can think that all you want. You can think that they're secretly a leprechaun that actually keeps the dark forces at bay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that they're not doing shit. What could they do to compensate for it, you say? They could be a fucking activist, as I've already said. They could be doing activism. They could be going on the street trying to convince people, as I'm doing to you right now, that life is shitty, that people don't do shit, that life is full of people getting raped, tortured. 1 in 5 people die of cancer. 1 in 3 get cancer. That all the people are doing is taking unnecessary risks. All you are doing is being risk takers. No one on this earth that's a redeemable motherfucker. Everybody's just taking gambles of each other's welfare all the fucking time. And if you try to convince people life isn't worth it, then no one cares for you besides for their own gain. That life is just a selfish endeavor. Pain is guaranteed, and pleasure is just a gamble. That all this shit is not compensated for. You don't even really exist as a being that's really anything but a temporary blip. But before this your opinions on some things probably have shifted a little bit, and your perspectives in life has probably shifted a wee bit since the beginning of this conversation. You are not the same person you were before this. Your neural pathways have created new memories, so to speak. You aren't even you anymore. So when it comes down to it, all this stuff, bullshit. So yeah, you should probably maybe try to convince people not to bring people in here. Maybe you could maybe convince people that eating a diet that brings animals here to just be tools for this shitty meaninglessness is bad. I don't know. There's a lot of things you can do to compensate for being alive. Well, if everybody's convinced, oh my god, you want me to ban Hammer is so tempting. Then I guess we annihilate all the animals and then we voluntarily go extinct. I mean, it's pretty obvious. That's what I've been saying, bro. Don't know about that. I didn't think I would convince you because people who are idiots who don't even understand the nature of their own suffering. You think you don't even suffer, bro. If you think you don't suffer, that means you think other people don't suffer, which means you think life can be something completely blissful or majority blissful for somebody out there. And for some reason that would compensate for them coming into existence, I imagine. Which I don't think is true. You could be 100%, you could be 99.9999999% bliss and 1% pain. And when it comes down to it, you're not being deprived of any of that pleasure by not coming into existence, but you're still inflicting unnecessary suffering on another being, which is immoral. It's the definition of immoral is unnecessary suffering. So I don't know if I can't convince you that it's wrong to cause unnecessary suffering and that a majority of life has pain to some extent or another. Like, I think you're just an idiot, and like when it comes down to it, like, yeah, I didn't think I could convince someone that doesn't think that they suffer to some extent or another. So. See, this guy thinks that if I break contact to people that are talking to and not convinced right now, you have a worse time convincing people, then that's a pretty interesting theory. Let's test that. See, I think that it's just a waste of time. See, I just banned him. That's pretty cool. See, I think that when it comes down to it, it's irrelevant what this man said, because all he's been doing is appealing to emotions and asking silly questions that are basically repeating themselves. And anybody that watches this video will see as such and understand that I don't like wasting my time. No one likes wasting their time. So, me not talking to someone and wasting my bloody fucking time, the 8 million people on this filthy fucking planet, with one that doesn't even understand that he suffers, and I have to generally waste fucking time convincing him he suffers, when there's an entire Eastern religion that's convincing people all across the world that life is suffering. Literally an Eastern religion, an entire religion, Buddhism, an entire hemisphere of the world believes life is suffering, and I'm supposed to waste my time convincing some one motherfucker that life is bad? No. If you're not gonna have kids, bro, it's consequentially just a waste of my time, anyways. Like I've already won with you. Like, I mean, I didn't even win with you. The battle didn't even need to be fought. So Who cares? He says, if you keep talking to me and convince me, I can convince you on the other side. I already said that argument, but you're not convinced by the fact that unnecessary suffering is bad. So if you're not convinced that unnecessary suffering is bad, there's nothing I can say to you that would convince you. What am I supposed to say? That like the angry leprechauns will smite you with karma if you don't do so, if you don't do what I say, and I have a very convincing argument of the angry leprechaun gods, and I can convince you of it. Like it's like no, there's if you can't be convinced that unnecessary suffering is a bad thing, then I'm sorry, my friend, you're just a dumbass, and there's nothing I could fucking say to convince you that matters. Maybe I could threaten you. Maybe I could like teleport behind you, like, oh, much and put a knife to your throat and be like, something bad's on you, and you'd be like, oh, and then we'd have like a duel to the death or some shit, and you would honorably agree that like suffering's bad and you shouldn't have kids, or something, some bullshit. But when it comes down to it, yeah, if you don't fucking agree that like my $5 equal your $5, my pain's bad, your pain's bad, and when someone inflicts unnecessary suffering on you, it's a bad thing. And when you inflict unnecessary suffering on another person, it's a bad thing. And an animal is equal in terms of people, in terms of pain experiences. And just because something's more intelligent than another thing doesn't mean that it has any more valid experience than another thing. So it's just like, if you can't agree with these basic fucking logical like things of being consistent in life, then hey, fuck off. It's just that simple. And anybody understanding it will understand exactly as such. I'll let you say it right here, but for your comment appearing on screen, my friend. As he said, one meal causes a significant amount of suffering, especially if you're a meat eater. So, yeah, good luck compensating for your life if you're not doing preventative means. If you're not preventing, you're not doing any shit to compensate. Prevention is what counts for your life. Being like, oh, I make someone feel good, that being's life is so fucking temporary as is. This doesn't do shit. Convince them that their life is a little more comfortable if you around and they fuck some hoe and have a child. Congratulations, you just consequentially brought a person into existence by comforting some person and making them like have a more happy life, and the happy life, better wife, fucking have a kid. What did you do? You didn't do shit to make me feel comfortable. Comfort my ass. Doesn't do anything. People mad. Anyways, my phone's at 5% power. I guess I'll stream until it runs out. Testing 1 2. But yeah, another person who just positivity bias, as Benatar says. I'm not suffering. I don't even really feel pain very often. Yeah, you just don't feel sad, you don't feel lonely, you don't feel bored, you don't feel agitated, you don't feel annoyed or disrespected, you don't feel any negative emotions on a frequent basis, on a daily basis, Of course. That's not disingenuous at all. Yeah, just trying to win the argument. What the fuck? Did that guy just like kill you and then vanish out of existence? Thanos got him. I know this group of Christian right wingers who play zombies. Let's see if you can. Anybody that play. Okay, here's the record. For the record, anybody that plays zombies, that fucking useless ass game mode where you just run around in fucking circles, training things all goddamn day, being like, I'm an intellectual. Zombie storyline, so. They can go fuck off. They're conservatives for a reason. They're tards. thought you said you like zombies. Zombies, the game mode? No, I don't like zombies that much. No. Zombies is alright. I've played it before, but no, it's not that good. It's just training things. It's mindless stuff. Like if you like you're stoned, it's not bad. But I think I might have said my friend Sam likes zombies. He's a big fan of it. But he's an anarchist and a conservative anarchist. So yeah, same thing as before. Fuck him. Please, you like that? Just like no. I'm just like shit. I like zombies. That's fair. I mean, that's cool. Being pro at something is cool, I guess. I mean, it's still just feeding unnecessary desires, as I say. But when it comes down to it, it's still cool to be pro at things, even if it's mainly just training AI. But to each their own. To each their own.